Welcome back to Embracing Words with Coach Najwa Yasmeen of Words in Action LLC. In this series, we discuss various books and how books impact us. I hope that you are able to use your books to reflect, determine, and act, and to finally write your own story.
First, like you mentioned, habit stacking, habit tracking, the Goldilocks rule, and all these other things and these examples. I think that one is one that we can kind of look at and apply to any of our goals or habits you want to create. And I think that that's something that's relatable and helpful, not only because, okay, well, just make it difficult, make it unsatisfying and like do these other things, but because it's something that we can all do probably to some degree. And so it's really accessible in that way. And one of the examples, I think it was this book or it was Sean Anker's The Happiness Advantage, where he talks about wanting to learn how to play the guitar. And so he's like, it's just in the closet. Why don't I just open it and play for 2 minutes? But he ends up moving it to the center of his living room or something. And then he's like, oh, well, it's in the way. I'm like, I've got to pick it up and move it anyway. So he made it easy and he made it accessible. And the way that he made it satisfying, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is that he would like check off like a list of like every time he did it. And it was satisfying for him to see the progress in that way. And so that's just like one example. But I do think that would probably be one of the things that was most helpful when it comes to how to actually make these habits stick. Because last thing I'll say on this is that I do like the premise that he speaks about and how it's not, and he kind of preaches this throughout the book. It's not like the one thing, it's the many things that you do repeatedly that are going to, as we know as coaches, change your identity and become like just what you do, because that's who you are. Like you're no longer trying to achieve the thing because you want to be the person. You're doing the things because that's just who you are. And you do that by making those things so, as I refer, stupid simple, that like there's no way you can't do them. You can't improve upon something that's not there. And I think that's something that he says in the book as well. And that's also worth noting, because so many times we're like, go big or go home. Like, I'm going to, set out to do this goal. Like, I've got to do it perfectly. And it's like, if you don't have the habit already there, then it doesn't make sense. It's, you think about building a house, it's like, if I don't have the foundation laid, then it doesn't make sense that I would start putting walls up, kind of a thing. And so I think that that's also another thing to know when it comes. But what are your thoughts? What are your valuable points or criticisms even that you have like overall through like what he offered through the book? I love that, because I'm like, I've only heard good things. And so I'm just like, I love that, again, you have this perspective and this lens that no one, like, it's safe to say I've not heard anyone say anything like on the contrary of it. So tell us your thoughts.
Well, I actually wanted to build on some things based on some of the stuff you shared. And then I will definitely share. It was funny because I looked up on Goodreads as well, and I was like, let me see if other people have the same thought. And I like clicked on the very few, like 1-star and 2-star reviews. And I was like, oh, other people are saying what I'm saying. And I was like, but these aren't the like highlighted ones, right? And I was just like, that's just, we gotta look for the people's different voices. Um, I know you were talking about, well, first you began talking about the dopamine, the reward system, right? And how making it so the new habits are satisfying to us. And what does it look like for us to be able to do that? And I just found it interesting, the way in which he spoke about the different dopamine spikes. So when it comes to habits on page 106, the key takeaway is this: dopamine is released not only when you experience pleasure, but also when you anticipate it. And it really made me think, I'm like, well, how does this work when I'm thinking about different habits that I have, right? And I really thought about like journaling, for instance. I purposely have begun to put my journal on the side of my bed with a pen. I wake up in the morning, I can reach down, snatch it, begin my quick journaling. Now I'm no longer, I have stopped myself so I don't do like an hour's worth of journaling and say, where's my morning go? I try to keep it short and simple so it's something that's feasible and easy for me to do. And so that way I'm like, I completely understand. And I know that the short-term reward is I have worked out something that has allowed me to process more, right? That has allowed me to see and give gratitude. Long term, it's another version of self-care. And so that's going to help me long term. I will also say, slightly related, the dopamine piece made me think of Star Trek The Next Generations episode called The Game, season 5, episode 6.
I love
Um,
that you reference that. Like, how did you have to look that up? How do you know?
I had to look up the episode. I knew which series it was, but I had to look up the exact episode because in this specific episode, somebody wanted to take over the ship, but they needed to have it so everybody on the ship had this bad habit of playing this game. And the way that they did it, the game was in a headset. And all it did was the higher levels you got, the more like dopamine hits you had, the more pleasure you got out of this game, right? And so then they created this bad habit and they had to sort of stop those receptors so people could get back on and like the ship isn't taken over. But I was just thinking, like, if you're thinking about that as a bad habit, you're getting so much pleasure from the bad habit. It goes with like, you need to make it unsatisfying, something that's not pleasurable for you. Me getting out of bed and walking to grab my journal is not pleasurable. Why? Because there's floors that are cold in the morning because I'm in the Northeast. And so just thinking about these simple things. Um, you also talked about building habits based on identity. I love my little hat. Oh my goodness. Oh, hey, y'all. I didn't realize I was recording. But while you're here, how about you hit that subscribe button and turn on your notifications for future videos? See you later.